Okay, thank you for the invitation to talk. And I hope to preface this with a little bit of explanation, tiny bit of background about me, and also set the context of this talk. So I'm indeed my present role is about Institute of Repositories, which is not this what this talk is about. This is from something I did before, by way of explanation of what you're going to see, this talk is not so much about the details. There are details of what the site is that we built and what it does and how it works. But I'd be very surprised if there's anything in it that you weren't already familiar with. The reason I'm raising it as a case study is because I think the context is particularly valuable, and what's been achieved in a small domain is, I think, an exemplar of what can be achieved using sort of off the shelf tools. So it's all about the context rather than about the details. So what I'm going to talk to you about is orthopaedics, and since we've already been excited by spaces, orthopaedics should be very simple. Orthopaedics is the medicine of bones and muscles. And if you want some indication of why orthopaedics is interesting, if you've been watching the Women's World Cup, a surprising number of players, two of the England players, are currently suffering from anterior cruciate ligament injuries, which puts them out of action for over a year. So orthopaedics is very, very central to many people's lives, particularly sports professionals. So as I say, I'm going to start with some context, and I'm sure you're all familiar with searching. All of you have academic interests, but just to look for a moment at how it is that content reaches researchers. So what happens is that publishers and societies typically provide content via a third-party platform. That's a software which is taken off the shelf to provide content hosting and discovery. There are many publishers, and so what you get is sort of a proliferation of content collections. So in practice, what happens is most researchers will go to one aggregated collection, like a Google Scholar or Scopus, and you'll be familiar with all of these. So nonetheless, each publisher continues to provide content, and when you go to content collections, frequently they're simply portals where you're then transferred, when you've done your search, to the content which is held on the publisher platform. Now, as I'm sure you know, publishers, there's an increasing concentration of publishers in scholarly publishing. Just 16 publishers cover about 50% of all the content, and one publisher, Wiley, is specialised in society, by scholarly society, things like the sort of the Royal Society of Chemistry, the Institute of Physics. There's hundreds of them. One publisher publishes more than 50% of all society content by numbers of society. So it's concentrated, and what's been happening over several years is societies, because it's easier, they tend to outsource this the technology of content hosting to third parties, including Silverchair, Oxford and Cambridge do a lot of hosting, and Atipon. And just in the last couple of years, you probably know that Atipon was bought by Wiley. So there's a steadily increasing concentration going on. And yet, many scholarly publishers, scholarly societies, continue with very small numbers of journals. So that's pie chart. I don't expect you to see all the details, but the big blue bit, the majority by number, are societies with fewer than 4 journals. It's not quite the Society of Stamp Collecting, but it's a bit like that. These are societies with just a small amount of content. So perhaps it's not surprising they're unlikely to have the expertise to build lots and lots of search and discovery tools in-house. There's a further problem, and I think you heard that there are some analogies with David's talk earlier with library platforms. Once you've hosted your content with a third party, it's not easy to move. It's a bit like bank accounts. You never change them once they're there. And that means there's not so much incentive for the platform provider to provide additional features. There's not a lot of competition in terms of providing additional services, because if you don't move, why bother? The further problem, and I say this from somebody who worked at Cambridge University Press, is unfortunately societies, the changes requested by societies who host their content with large aggregators are sometimes, shall we say, rather cosmetic than functional. Societies are not always the best judges of their own users. So the resulting situation actually makes it very difficult for discovery. And this is just one quote I could have shown from many. I confess I've given up, so this is from an academic, two academics, I've given up searching databases and preprint services. There's just too much content published and no easy way to find things that are both high quality and relevant. This is another problem, which is not just that there's a proliferation of content, but there's also a vast amount of content, more than can easily be retrieved by researchers. And as you know, that the rise of preprint servers just increases the number of places where content can be found. So there's an increasing number of resources. So let's move on to a very small publisher, the British Editorial Society of Bone and Joint Surgery, wonderfully named, founded in 1953 for the advancement of education in orthopaedic surgery. This is a lovely society based in London. They have 4 journals and one conference proceedings paper. So a very, very small player in a relatively small subset of medical publishing. If you look at all orthopedic journals, and this is a very amateurish attempt. I just looked look for journal by title and look for journals with orthopedic in them. But there were about 36 journals just with orthopedic. So the proportion of total coverage by this one society is fairly negligible. It's not. It's unlikely that you, as an orthopedic surgeon, would go to all the individual societies publishing papers. So what can one society do to actually provide a service for their researchers? You'll appreciate researchers. If you're an orthopedic surgeon, you want to see all content, not just the content that 1 or 2 societies publish. It's not easy for the publisher to even if they improve their platform, improve their searching, they're not covering all content. There are aggregations in medical science. PubMed is the best known one, but medicine is such a vast area that it counts as almost as more than one domain. It's difficult to provide tools that are specific to one subject. So what can one society do? It's a bit like David and Goliath. It's not there isn't an easy solution. So OrthoSearch was this one society's response to that challenge. And what was interesting, again, this is the part of the context of it's not what they did, but how they approached the problem. Rather than just index their own content, OrthoSearch decided to index everything in orthopedics. And that was only possible because they could involve, and this is because of the machine learning and the ability of machines to be able to select content at scale from other journals. So rather than just the relatively small number of orthopedic related articles they had, they decided to index everything. And that means not just all the orthopedic journals, but all the orthopedic content from the general journals. So something like the British Medical Journal will have maybe 2 or 3 papers about orthopedics in every issue. So the challenge is to find the relevant stuff. And to give you an example, this was when the site was built in something like 270,000 articles in PLOS One. 19,693 were related to orthopedics. to try and do that by hand, to try and class those by hand would be impossible. So this is something that that becomes possible when you can do it by machines using ML techniques. Also wanted to provide free actors, and of course, it being medical, it has to be updated on a regular basis so that it's current. So what's the editorial society of bone and joint surgery did was index all journals so that the site is a portal rather than a sort of rather than containing things. It has the search and discovery system, and when you go, just like Google Search or Scopus, when you've gone to the content itself, you're then transferred to the individual publishing platform. And alongside the search, they built a taxonomy around it. And I'll show you some of the features of that to improve the discovery. So there's something like 300,000 articles, and the crazy thing is 300,000 is a drop in the ocean compared with the total content in PubMed. Or this is an example where less is more, in that you're providing fewer results and your users are happier. It's also got, as you can imagine, conference abstracts, podcasts, videos, and standards and case studies. So there are a sort of panoply of things relating to orthopaedics. So what was another value that the society could bring to the party, which was different in kind to more general platforms, is because the society has orthopedic specialists, they're familiar with what orthopedic surgeons want to do, how they approach the subject. And so these, if you like, over topics were the sort of the way into these represented the kind of use cases that the surgeons or the orthopedic professionals wanted from the content provided. So it could be via anatomy, it could be via disease, it could be via treatment, it could be via trauma, and these and with each of these were built associations that X is the treatment for Y, or A is a symptom of B, and that kind of thing. And it's able, for a small domain, it's possible to build these kind of relationships. There's about 10, 12 of them in all. So how is it done? So they, as a small society, they use an external supplier. Interestingly, this was done independently of their own hosting platform. So it was a completely separate system. It didn't affect the way the content was hosted. And the functionality was bolted on as a series of modules with automated subject selection and tagging. So the system automatically makes subject selections, sidestepping the hosting platform, using semantic tools for the search and discovery. And as a result, it achieves in a single domain what couldn't be done for all subjects. I think I can show you a little bit about none of these will surprise you that selecting content into specialities, that's sort of as you can imagine, the use of a taxonomy enables sort of synonyms and British English and American English to be identified. Switching between common and technical terms again becomes possible. Because it's a 20,000 term taxonomy, it's possible to be far more granular than MESH, which is the standard life science classification system. And one of the challenges about MESH is that because medicine has become such an all-embracing subject, MESH classification works quite well in the sort of core medical area. When you get to the sort of the edges of it, it's sort of it's not so useful. By restricting it to one small domain like orthopaedics, you get much better results. So there's the main ontology. I've shown you that. So this shows you what the system looks like, combined with all of the features that I've described. It also has facets, and those facets are showing are giving you other ways into the content. And I think that again, by using faceted search, faceted features, you get the advantage of an advanced search without providing lots and lots of not necessarily providing lots of additional menus. So you've got the various medical specialities, you've got access types, you've got article types, which I'll come back to in a moment. And there's also various citation scores that you can use to select your content if you wish. So to give you some examples, abbreviations are expanded. So MRI gives you hits for magnetic resonance and that sort of that kind of thing. The common terms, hip replacement, finds hip arthroplasty, the sort of the common and technical terms. You notice also on the right-hand side the thesaurus that has includes descriptions of the major terms. So you've got the glossary terms explained, and in a further extension, so symptoms are related to the relevant conditions. So abdominal bloating is gastrointestinal and is linked to other terms in the thesaurus. I mentioned that there you've got you're linking to the relevant section of the thesaurus with definitions of the terms. That means that you've got that related terms are being shown via the thesaurus, but without you having to do a thesaurus lookup, should we say? So the relevant parts of the thesaurus are displayed on your search results in a way which reduces the need. One of the problems of search interfaces is the dreaded. Nobody ever wants to use the advanced search, and so all the functionality you build is never looked at because nobody ever sees it. So this is bringing a bit of the advanced search into the search results, which I think is an elegant way of helping discovery. And I like the way that that the various facets are sort of not in the way. They're there if you want to use them, but you don't have to. So this is where you can just add the various search features as you go along. One thing I think we'll come back to clinical trial. So again, if we look up, I've shown here the same article on PubMed Central and on the OrthoSearch. You'll notice that that OrthoSearch is showing much richer range of tools and sort of navigation features around the content, and that's really because it would be very difficult in a much larger resource to be able to have meaningful links around to related content. By restricting the domain, you can make you can provide a much tighter result and much better navigation. So that's pretty much what the system does. What could be done beyond this? Well, fascinatingly, if I just go back to here, you probably can't see this, but there's one of the ways of categorizing the site is by article type, and quite amazingly, article type is it shows their clinical trial, but the number of article types that are JATS, NATO JATS is the standard system for tagging academic content, and even today, 2023, I don't know how long XML has been going, but there's no single agreed standard for sort of different types of articles, even in medical content. So one of the challenges that a site like this is it can only use the metadata where it exists, and so adding more things like article type are sort of really based on the community as a whole, improving the quality of their metadata. And the same applies to such tags as you know nowadays, sort of that for every journal every article published, that frequently exists in several forms. You might have a preprint, you might have the author's accepted manuscript, you might have a version of record, and it's increasingly important to tag what these versions are. And there isn't a standard way of, there isn't a consistent and universal way of having that, that tagging available, which, when you think about it, is quite a fundamental requirement for academic research. However, none of these are the site is doing what it can, and these are things for the future. So just to conclude, I think it's a lovely story because it shows that small publishers can actually contribute to the research, to solve research problems in a way that frequently larger publishers can. And they achieve their result by working around limitations rather than move the platform. Just build another one and try it out and see what happens. In many ways, the sort of small domains, it's a safe development because larger platforms just don't have the they don't have the interest or the sort of and it would be very complex to try and build this kind of solution in a larger domain. The AI tools, I haven't gone into details of how they work. I think you can see they sort of working in the background. They improve the discovery without being intrusive. So in a way, yeah, better navigation beats more hits in a way. So what's remarkable about a site like this is you won't see anywhere we found 500,000 hits. That's not the idea. If you want to find the ones that are relevant. So that's pretty much it. I've done the case study, but talked to molecular connections about the software. And Richard Hollingsworth, I should acknowledge, was very helpful from the Bone and Joint Society in giving me details of how the site was put together and how they used their expertise. Thank you.